It was a treat, you know. I mean, I just felt like it was a gift every day.
What happens when a Hollywood legend decides it's finally time to lift the curtain and speak his truth? No filters, no scripts, just the man himself. When that old school Hollywood shine dims for a heartbeat, and the real soul behind that famous mustache steps into the light with nothing to hide. At 81, Sam Elliott kicks back in his old leather chair, that deep, thunderous voice rumbling through the room like a storm. And for the first time in decades, he's ready to drop names, not of the roles that made him an icon, but of the women who left their marks on his life. Not the movie characters who built his fame, but the real women who built him. 7 actresses who shared much more than just screen time with the cowboy. These were the women who knew the man behind the myth. The world's been buzzing nonstop about it. The interviewer leans in, almost too nervous to breathe. Sam's eyes, still razor sharp, lock on with that same dangerous calm. The kind of stare that could melt steel. That spark of mischief is still there, glowing under those silver brows. It's the same look that made people fall hard for him in Tombstone, The Big Lebowski, and A Star is Born. That quiet fire that said everything without a single word. But this time, oh, it's something entirely different. This isn't about scripts or spotlights. It's about the man behind the myth. People never really saw what life looked like for him once the cameras stopped rolling. The late nights when Hollywood shrank down to something small, raw, and painfully real. Sam takes a slow sip of whiskey, savoring it like a man replaying a lifetime in his head. That famous mustache twitches, almost like it's guarding a secret he's finally ready to spill. The whole room freezes, quiet enough to hear the wind slipping through the trees outside his Malibu hideaway. This, right here, this is the moment fans have waited half a century for. The truth about the women who captured the heart of Hollywood's quietest cowboy. These weren't just co-stars. They were the ones who saw past the calm voice and rugged jawline to the fire burning underneath. Sam Elliott was never the type to chase fame with big plans or fake smiles. He wasn't built for red carpet gossip or the endless flash of cameras. He stayed true to the strong, silent path, both on screen and off, and that mystery pulled people in like gravity itself. Women couldn't help but feel something magnetic about him, like his energy was humming under the surface. Some of the most talented and striking actresses of their time ended up drawn right into his orbit, and he didn't even have to try. He just had it. Catherine Ross was the first name that turned into legend beside his, though not for the reasons people think. They met on the set of The Legacy back in 1978, just 2 pros showing up to work, nothing dramatic at all. But Sam remembers the exact moment the air changed between them, and it didn't happen over a fancy dinner or some movie scene written for romance. It happened in real life, unscripted, when neither of them saw it coming. It all went down between takes. No lights, no script, just a moment that slipped in like fate itself. Catherine paused by a mirror to fix a strand of hair, and in the glass, she caught his reflection watching her. Steady, calm, completely locked in. When she turned and gave him that soft smile, something invisible sparked between them, something that had nothing to do with the movie. The world would later see it as a Hollywood fairy tale ending in marriage, but no one ever saw that quiet, magnetic pull that started it all. From that first glance, Catherine wasn't just another co-star or passing crush. She became the one who looked past the rugged cowboy image and saw the man underneath, a man with warmth, patience, and a heart that ran deep. Their chemistry wasn't scripted, it wasn't rehearsed. It was raw, real, and it hit like lightning. You could feel it even when the cameras weren't rolling. But before Catherine, there were others. Women who knew Sam Elliott before the fame, when he was still grinding for recognition. Back when he didn't know if that deep, thunderous voice and unmistakable stare would ever earn him a real shot in the industry. These actresses noticed something special about the tall, mustached guy from Sacramento long before the rest of the world realized he was built for legend status. Cybill Shepherd was at her peak after the last picture show when her path crossed with Sam's in the mid-70s. At that point, she was practically Hollywood royalty, blonde, glamorous, the kind of star who could have any leading man she wanted with a single look. But there was something about Sam's calm confidence. that quiet power in his presence that pulled her in like gravity itself. He wasn't out there bragging or trying to sell himself. Sam didn't need to. He had that effortless magnetism, the kind that spoke louder than words. He just stood there, cool and calm, letting his presence fill the space like he owned it without even trying. What started as a spark between him and Cybill turned into a brief but intense secret affair, tucked far away from the gossip columns and Hollywood whispers. Reporters were too busy chasing her high-profile flings with powerful directors and producers to ever notice the quiet storm happening behind the scenes. What pulled her toward Sam wasn't fame. He didn't have any of that back then. It wasn't money or connections either. It was his realness in a city full of masks, that grounded, steady energy that cut straight through all the smoke and mirrors. Sam's voice drops into that deep, gravelly whisper as he recalls those secret nights with Cybill, dim hotel rooms, small desert towns, and long drives under the stars where it felt like the rest of the world had disappeared. Out there, they weren't stars. They were just two people chasing a feeling that didn't need chaos or spotlight drama. She showed him that desire didn't always need to burn wild to be real, that sometimes a brief connection can mean everything, even if it doesn't last forever. Then Sam takes a breath, and the next name he mentions lands heavy, the kind of pause that says this one mattered. Farrah Fawcett, America's golden girl. At her peak, she was everywhere. The shining blonde hair, that dazzling smile, the poster that turned her into an icon of an entire generation. But behind that public glow was a woman who was searching for something real, something honest, something deeper than all the surface-level romances people kept tying her to. Sam first crossed paths with Farrah Fawcett at a charity event back in 1979, long before either of them knew the kind of legends they'd become. She wasn't just beautiful. She had this quiet softness in her eyes, a kind of longing most people completely missed because they were too busy being blinded by her superstar glow. The connection between them was instant, but it was complicated. Farrah was still with Lee Majors at the time, even though the tabloids hadn't picked up on the cracks already forming in their relationship. And Sam? He was still on the climb, years away from being the rugged leading man the world would later fall for. What they found together wasn't fame or scandal. It was escape. It was two people catching a breath away from all the noise, both carrying the weight of their worlds, but finally able to just be. Their romance lasted around 6 months, quietly tucked away in private corners, far from the hungry cameras and gossip hunters. Sam remembers her with real warmth, a woman who laughed freely but loved with caution. She knew the connection they shared couldn't live under Hollywood's spotlight, and when they finally let go, it was with nothing but mutual respect and understanding. They'd given each other exactly what they needed, exactly when they needed it. Then comes the name that always makes people's jaws drop, Glenn Close. This was long before Fatal Attraction, before the fame and the roles that would turn her into a powerhouse. Back then, she was known for her stage work, sharp, focused, classically trained to the core. She and Sam worked together on a TV movie that time eventually forgot, but they didn't. That project left a mark that never really faded. In just a few weeks, something rare lit up between them, something deeper than anyone on that set could have guessed. Glenn wasn't like the other women in Sam's life. She challenged him, pushed him hard in ways that caught him off guard. She didn't fall for charm or that slow, smoky voice. She wanted to see what was underneath. She made him dig deep to prove there was real depth behind the legend in the making. Their connection wasn't about glamour or convenience. It was built on long nights and sharp minds colliding. They'd stay up for hours, trading thoughts, challenging each other's craft, pushing past comfort zones like two pros chasing perfection. It wasn't just attraction. It was two artists sharpening each other, shaping each other's souls in a way no one else ever could. The chemistry was undeniable to everyone around them. But what happened off camera was something private, something charged with truth. Sam's voice softens as he remembers those endless late-night talks that stretched until sunrise. Glenn's fierce intellect meeting his calm, grounded energy like two frequencies syncing up. She cut right through his quiet cowboy exterior, peeling it back to the man underneath while he saw the hidden fire burning behind her perfectly polished presence. Their affair didn't last long, but it changed them both. It left a mark on how they approached their work, how they connected, how they understood that rare kind of bond that happens when two people crash into each other against all logic, but can't pull away. The room grows still again as Sam leans back, the weight of memory heavy in the air. He's getting ready to drop the remaining names, each one holding its own story, its own lessons. The man who built a career out of quiet power and unspoken emotion is finally tearing down the silence, talking not just about romance, but about what it taught him. Love, desire, and that wild, unpredictable pull two people can't ignore, no matter how much sense it doesn't make. Then comes the fifth name, and Sam says it with the weight of a man remembering a what-if that still hits deep. Cher. By the early 80s, she was already a total powerhouse, someone who could own a room the second she walked in. But what pulled Sam in wasn't the sequins, the fame, or that unstoppable energy that followed her everywhere. It was the rare, quiet moments when the spotlight faded, and he caught a glimpse of the softer woman underneath it all. They first met at a Hollywood party Sam didn't even want to go to. He hated that kind of scene, the fake smiles, the endless small talk. So he slipped out onto the balcony with a beer in hand, staring down at the city lights like they were scattered diamonds across the dark. That's where Cher found him, not as the bold superstar everyone expected, but calm, almost shy, asking if she could sit beside him for just a minute away from the noise. What followed was 3 months of low-key, hidden moments that didn't fit the public image of either of them. Sam, the quiet cowboy who rarely let anyone close, found himself drawn in by Cher's brutal honesty about her fears, her pressure, her constant balancing act between strength and vulnerability. And Cher, the woman who looked untouchable under stage lights, found something rare in Sam's stillness. The way he listened without jumping in, without judgment, made her feel safe in a way fame never could. Their time together moved like a secret rhythm across Los Angeles. Private spots tucked away from cameras, late-night drives up the California coast where Cher could finally drop the glam, let out that big laugh, and just be. She wasn't the icon out there. She was just a woman sharing stories, teasing Sam for his dry humor, while he sat there, smiling in that quiet way that said more than words ever could. They'd joke about Hollywood's wild chaos, trading quiet comments about how unreal it all felt. But behind those laughs came the softer moments. Hotel rooms where Cher would curl up against him, whispering her fears in the dark. She'd ask if anyone could ever love her, the real woman behind the fame, not the polished image the world demanded. Sam remembers how her guard would fall away completely when it was just them, no cameras, no audience. Her famous voice would soften as she told him about growing up feeling different, like she never quite fit anywhere. With Sam, she didn't have to perform. She could finally breathe. And in return, she gave him something just as powerful. She pushed him to stop hiding from the spotlight, to own his presence, to see that quiet strength of his as star power in disguise. Cher believed in him before he fully believed in himself, pushing him to take the kind of risks that would shape the career he's now known for. Their ending didn't come from a lack of care. It came from life's reality. Cher's world demanded constant attention, constant shine, cameras following her every move. Sam, meanwhile, felt most alive in the quiet corners, far from flashing lights and headlines. They both knew that if their private world ever went public, the pressure would crush it completely. So they made the hardest choice. They walked away. Not because they stopped wanting each other, but because love sometimes means protecting what's real by letting it go. Their goodbye was soft, but final. No drama, no bitterness, just two people who knew they'd given each other something rare and genuine, something that would stay with them long after the spotlight moved on and the fire cooled to memory. Then came Jessica Lange, an unexpected and unforgettable chapter in Sam's story. When they met at a film festival in 1983, Jessica was unstoppable. Tootsie, Francis, awards, headlines. She was walking proof that she was way more than just another Hollywood beauty. But Sam noticed something beneath that cool, confident exterior, a restless spark, a quiet storm she kept hidden from the cameras. Their connection started over a raw conversation about the business, how Hollywood could chew people up and sell them like products instead of treating them like artists. Jessica was fighting to be taken seriously as a dramatic actress, refusing to let anyone box her in. And Sam, he was trying to break out of the sidekick roles people kept shoving him into, trying to show there was more depth behind that steady stare and that voice like rolling thunder. They found comfort in each other's honesty, in admitting that even success can feel lonely when it doesn't hit the heart the way you hoped. What drew them closer was their shared respect for realness in a town full of illusions. Jessica admired Sam's quiet refusal to play Hollywood's fake game, his calm pride in being himself instead of chasing approval. And Sam was drawn to her sharp mind, that fearless refusal to sell her soul for an easy climb to the top. Their relationship lasted 8 months, fast, passionate, and lived mostly on the road. Between different film shoots, they'd meet up in small towns across America, slipping into their own private bubble away from the spotlight. Sam remembers her vividly, the woman who challenged him to go deeper, to step into the emotional corners he'd avoided for years. She didn't just inspire him. She ignited something in him that forever changed the way he approached his work, his art, and even his sense of self. Their spark was real, but it was the intellectual fire that kept them connected. Those late-night talks about books, philosophy, and what artists truly owe the world became their glue. Jessica saw a depth in Sam that so many directors missed, something layered, thoughtful, quietly powerful. And Sam saw in her a relentless commitment to truth, a devotion to her craft that matched his own slow-burning drive. When it ended, there wasn't any chaos or heartbreak headlines. It was simply life pulling them in different directions. Jessica was stepping into her defining era, the iconic leading lady phase that would lock her name in Hollywood history. And Sam, he was finally rising into that strong, silent force audiences would come to recognize instantly. Still, they stayed friends, keeping the lessons they'd taught each other close to heart, about love, dedication, and what it really means to stay honest in a world that often rewards the opposite. Then comes the seventh and final name, the one wrapped in mystery. Sam says it slowly, almost reverently, Sissy Spacek. By the mid-'80s, she was already one of the most respected dramatic actresses of her generation. Sissy carried this grounded, earthy presence that reminded Sam of home, mixed with a sharp, no-nonsense mind that could slice right through any Hollywood act. Their meeting wasn't planned. It was pure coincidence. Both had wandered into the same small theater production in Los Angeles, drawn by the promise of something raw and real. After the show, fate threw them together again at a little coffee shop nearby. They sat for hours, completely lost in conversation about the performance, dissecting every emotion, every choice, every piece of truth that came off that stage. It wasn't about fame or flirtation. It was two artists who spoke the same creative language, connecting over passion, craft, and the kind of authenticity that only a few people in Hollywood truly understood. What came next turned into the most complicated chapter of Sam's entire life, not because of Hollywood, timing, or outside pressure, but because of how deeply he felt for her. His bond with Sissy Spacek started simple, two artists talking shop, but it grew into something powerful, something that neither of them saw coming and neither quite knew how to handle. Sissy saw right through Sam's cowboy exterior from the start. She recognized the thoughtful, layered man hiding behind that calm, rugged silence. And Sam, he was completely disarmed by her mix of strength and softness. How she could be fierce one second and heartbreakingly gentle the next without missing a beat. Their connection wasn't built on surface-level attraction, though that spark was strong enough to make the air between them feel electric. It was deeper than that, something emotional, spiritual, magnetic. They'd spend endless hours walking through Griffith Park, talking about everything. Their childhood memories, the fears they'd buried, the insecurities they never dared to say out loud. They'd dive into long talks about truth, storytelling, and what it meant to put your soul into your art. Sissy pushed Sam to question how he saw himself, to step out from behind the quiet stoicism and embrace his full range, his heart, his vulnerability, his fire. And Sam, in return, gave her something she hadn't felt in years, a rare kind of calm amid the chaos of fame. Their relationship lasted 2 years, the longest affair Sam ever had outside his marriage to Catherine Ross. But it didn't end because the love ran dry. It ended because it was too much, too intense, like a wildfire neither of them could control while balancing the weight of their careers. They made the hardest choice, to let each other go before that passion tore apart everything they had both worked so hard to build. As Sam's voice drops low near the end of his confession, the air in the room grows still. The weight of decades sits heavy on him, like dust floating in the golden afternoon light. It's not regret in his eyes. It's remembrance. The kind that comes only from a man who's lived it all, felt it all, and finally decided to tell the truth about what it really cost him. These 7 women didn't just shape how Sam understood desire. They redefined what connection truly meant. They taught him what it means to be vulnerable, to open yourself up completely to another person, even when every instinct tells you to protect your heart. Each one showed him something different about courage, honesty, and the hard truth that love isn't always neat or safe. It can be messy, painful, and still completely worth it. The interviewer senses he's not finished yet. There's a weight still hanging in the air, something heavier that hasn't been said. Sam's weathered hands tighten around his whiskey glass, the faint tremor of emotion hidden behind that stillness. The silence stretches between them like a held breath. Something's coming, something personal. When Sam finally speaks again, his voice drops low, rougher, almost uncertain, as if he's stepping into a memory he's never dared to revisit out loud. There's something else, he says, and the confidence that's carried him for decades suddenly falters. Then comes the line that changes everything, something I've never told anyone, not even Catherine. The room freezes. Even the wind outside seems to stop, as though the world itself is holding its breath, waiting to hear what's next. Sam's eyes lose focus, drifting somewhere far beyond the interviewer, beyond the room, beyond the moment itself. He's looking back through time, back to a younger version of himself before the fame, before the legend. 1976, he says quietly. I was a nobody then. Just another tall drink of water hoping for a break. His voice carries the weight of that memory, raw, stripped down, and honest. It's not the Hollywood icon talking now. It's the man beneath it all, ready to uncover one last truth that's been buried in silence for nearly 50 years. Sam's voice softens, almost hesitant, like he's stepping into a memory that still carries a sting. There was this woman, he begins slowly, this incredible woman who could have had any man in Hollywood, and maybe she did. But for 3 weeks, she chose me. He pauses, the weight of that memory pressing heavy between words. Back then, that iconic mustache was barely more than stubborn stubble, hint of what was coming. He had the determination, the quiet grit, and that raw charisma he hadn't quite learned to control yet. Then he says her name, and the air shifts instantly. Raquel Welch. The name lingers like smoke curling from a dying campfire, soft, haunting, impossible to ignore. She was everything I wasn't, Sam says finally, his voice low. Sophisticated, worldly, completely comfortable in her own skin in ways I was still figuring out. At the time, Sam had been filming a forgettable Western, one of those projects that came and went without a whisper. Raquel was between films, taking meetings, running the town like only she could, commanding attention just by walking into a room. But in Sam's mind, this wasn't about the superstar Raquel the world worshipped on posters and magazine covers. His memory drifts back to a version of her few people ever saw, a woman craving something real beneath the layers of fame and perfection that had come to define her. Hollywood was a different beast back then. Privacy still existed if you knew where to hide, and Raquel, despite all her fame, knew how to vanish when she needed to breathe. Sam paints the picture of a long-gone world, smoky bars, secret corners, and stars who still carried mystique. Their worlds weren't supposed to collide, but for 3 unforgettable weeks they did. It started in a dusty little dive bar in Venice Beach. Not the polished, tourist-packed spot people brag about today, but a rough, half-forgotten joint where actors went to disappear for a night. The neon buzzed low. The jukebox hummed old country tunes. And that's where she walked in, Raquel Welch, the legend herself. And somehow, against every odd, she found herself drawn to the quiet cowboy in the corner who didn't flinch under her light. She was sitting alone at the far end of the bar, sunglasses still on, even though it was close to midnight, sending off that silent warning that she wasn't there to play the role of Raquel Welch for anyone tonight. Sam spotted her right away, of course. How could he not? But the way she held herself, the way she stayed tucked into her corner, said loud and clear, "Don't approach." She just wanted to be. So Sam did what came naturally. He minded his business, ordered a beer, kept to his lane, and didn't try to impress anyone. Meanwhile, the rest of the room couldn't help but sneak glances her way, the kind that mix curiosity with awe. And then, out of nowhere, she broke the silence. Raquel leaned in just enough to ask, "Got a light?" Her voice wasn't what he expected. It wasn't that bold movie star tone. It was soft, almost uncertain, like someone who'd spent too long pretending and was finally tired of it. Later, she told him the reason she chose to talk to him was simple. He was the only man in that bar who didn't stare, didn't try to charm her, didn't act like they'd met before. He just stayed cool, quiet, and real. "You were the only one who didn't need me to be Raquel Welch," she said once with a half smile. Apparently, that calm energy was exactly what she'd been craving. What happened after that night was nothing like anything Sam had ever lived through. Raquel was older, wiser, and carried herself with the kind of confidence that only comes from surviving the climb to the very top and realizing the view isn't all it's cracked up to be. But beneath that shimmer of fame, there was a loneliness that matched Sam's own, a quiet ache for something true, something untouched by spotlights or scripts. They came from two different worlds, hers drenched in fame, his still building quietly, but somehow, in that smoky little bar, their paths aligned. It wasn't about power or glamour. It was two tired souls finding a moment of peace in each other's company, both realizing they were chasing the same thing all along, something real in a city built on illusion. Their time together unfolded quietly, hidden away in private corners all across Los Angeles. No red carpets, no paparazzi, just two people who understood the value of being unseen. At her place up in the hills, Raquel would cook for him barefoot, wearing one of his shirts, moving around the kitchen with this easy grace that completely shattered the world's idea of who she was. In those moments, she wasn't a headline or a legend. She was just Raquel, laughing, tasting sauce off a wooden spoon, alive in the simplest way. And then there were those long drives along the California coast, windows down, her hair flying free in the wind, the ocean stretching out beside them. Out there, she wasn't the face on the billboards or the icon from the posters. She was just a woman, relaxed and real, sitting next to a man who actually saw her. No image, no performance, just two souls escaping the noise of fame. She was generous, Sam says, his voice softening with something close to awe. Not generous with things or gifts, but with herself. She let him see the woman behind the spotlight, the one who carried the quiet weight of being famous too young, too fast. She told him stories she'd never shared in interviews. The tough ones, the trade-offs, the cost of becoming an icon before she ever understood what that spotlight could take from her. Sam sets his whiskey glass down slowly, the sound sharp in the stillness. His gaze lifts, not just to the interviewer, but past him, straight into the camera that's been recording every word. Outside, the Malibu light fades into dusk, the sky bleeding gold into deep blue. Long shadows stretch across the room as Hollywood's most mysterious cowboy finally lets the truth roll out, raw, human, and heartbreakingly real. These women, he says, his voice heavy with the weight of decades and the quiet grace of a man who's loved deeply and let go without bitterness. They taught me that desire isn't something you can script or direct. It happens in the spaces between words, in those rare moments when two people decide to be real with each other. His mustache twitches with the faintest smile, that timeless glint still flickering in his eyes. At 81, Sam Elliott looks every bit the legend we always imagined, but now we finally see the man behind it. A man who's lived hard, loved honestly, and somehow found peace in telling the stories he once kept locked away. The cowboy who built a career out of silence has spoken, and in doing so, he's reminded the world that even legends carry secrets, heartaches, and memories too heavy to name. Yet somehow, the mystery around him refuses to fade. If anything, it burns brighter than ever, like embers in the dark, refusing to die out. If this story moved you, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment. Let's keep these untold Hollywood moments alive together.